All right. It is Sunday, June, like seriously, June 4th. Wowzers. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate you taking some time out of your Sunday. Bianca and I were talking just before you came on. We were talking about, she's like, I missed it, like, right? I missed the morning call. And it's interesting, isn't it, how when you find something that you connect to, and then when it's not there, you can feel it, right? And me too, right? Me too. I feel that when I'm not, if I'm not channeling, right? There's a part of me, there's a sense of like, okay, what's missing. And although I had the summit for 2 days, so I was, connected to energies and connected to people. It's a little bit different. So it's good to be here with all of you. Um, Today was really interesting because in my meditation, our guides, my guides, were really, really quiet, and often there's like, not chatter, but almost like it feels like a humming in my body. I don't know if that will make sense. And so today there was just a bit more quiet. And when I came on, I was like, I was like, I didn't have a clear vision of what to talk about. And so then, as Bianca was sharing with me, there's a few things that kind of came to me through the connection. And so had a really interesting experience yesterday at the summit that I'm guided to share with you. And so at the summit level, we have a particular way that we do the presentations. So the speakers come on and we read their bio, and then we ask their story, like how do they, come to where they are. And then they're to have three kind of points that they're to give the audience, to present to the audience, that have value. So it's about offering value, and it's a non-sales event. We do have some speakers who pay for an hour, and that they can sell their program, but it's to be presented in a way where it's an invitation versus being, I'll even use those words, too salesy, right? Because we know that a lot of people, when they're doing events, it's just sales. And so where we were trying to find, excuse me, the balance between. And so this lovely woman comes on, and she said, I've listened to a couple of your interviews and you're a great interviewer. And I said, oh, thank you. She goes, but I've decided I don't want to be interviewed. I'm just going to present. So you can do your thing and introduce me, and then I'll take it over. And so I paused. I said to her, no. So, um, and I know in my that probably even last year, I would have maybe felt bad about saying no, or might not have had said no, or might have skirted around the issue, or tried to manipulate, uh, agreeing to it and then manipulating to get what I wanted. And so I just said to her, no, that's actually not the format that you signed up for. And so we'll do it this way. It needs to be consistent because it's part of a show, right? Like it's a part of a production, and it's going out into the world as as a production. And she was a little surprised that I said no. And so then I read her bio, and then I asked her a story, and she said, well, you just read my bio, that's my story. And I thought, oh, this could be really fun or not. And I found myself getting a little bit irritated. And then I went, okay, if I'm irritated, that energy is going to, like, right, it has a ripple effect, and it's going to affect the presenter, was also going to affect the audience. And this is going out into the world. So it will affect the audience afterwards. And so it was just like this fleeting moment of thinking that. So I, kind of settled down and tried to guide her. So then I asked her a question. She turns around, she asks me a question. So now she's trying to And so it was this gentle dance of back and forth of, this is the way that it's to be done, and the way that she desired, what she wanted, which was much different than what we were doing. And I think we did okay. Like, I had someone listen to it last night for me, because I said, if it's really apparent that it's so different, we won't actually put it in the projection, right? We'll pull the video and the audio, it won't go out into the 250 platforms. And so I got off the call, and thank goodness I was in a break so I could reground myself. But I want to share with all of you, I was really pissed off. And there's not, there's very few things in my life in business. If I get pissed off, it will be my relationship with Rob, true story. But in my world of business, I don't have that same emotional spark that lights me on fire, and on fire in, like, not a great fire, like a roaring, like, and I got off the call, and I was pissed. And so we had a group chat going, and the producer said, call me. So she had a few minutes, so she's back end producing things, and she's like, as she said, Ranchelle, she said, you need to vent. She said, I know you don't do that, because you go into a meditative state, you bring yourself, you ground yourself. And she said, that's fantastic. And she said, but that was bullying, and I think you just need to, like, release that energy. And so it was awesome, because I was allowed, I was given permission. I permitted myself, but I had permission for a witness to release the lower density energy, to be as bitchy as I wanted to be as catty as I wanted to release the anger from my body, because it was being stored in my body. And so, and there was, it was important that I didn't store it in my body either till after the summit, and then process it. And so I did my thing, felt tons better, went back to the next interview. And so this morning, when I was, thinking about it and thinking about her, and I thought, it's interesting, like, how can I process this, not store it, so ensure that it's released from my cells, because anger, our lower density energies are stored in the cells. And there was a trigger there for me to be pissed off. So it was like, so this is the gold, right? So it's like, okay, I was pissed off. What's the trigger? What situation have I been in before that triggered a neural pathway of anger? And what I realized was that she wanted it her way, and it didn't really matter what I wanted. Now, those are words that I've heard from people in my life. You want what you want, Ranchelle, and it doesn't really matter what we want. And so she was a mirror for me of, what does that look like for people in my life when I want what I want, and I'm not really willing to open up, because this is what I want, and I made a decision that I want this. So I sat in that, little gross feeling for a little while to realize that was my mirror. And then asked, for guidance on the opportunity, to unpack that a little bit for me. So am I still showing up that way? And the answer was no, I don't always show up that way. I can show up that way. It was a pattern of behavior that was really strong in my life, but it was placed there yesterday to remind me of the impact that has on others. Now, here's a fine line, and it's a really fine line. I can desire what I want, and I can move forward with what I want, and I can hear what people want if it's different. The key is to communicate why that isn't going to work for me. And the difference is, in my past, I would have agreed to, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I would have done what I wanted to do regardless. And what I realize now, what I do is, if I want something and it's different, right, or if it doesn't match or any of those words, the people in my life, I'm now having conversation about what does that look like for you, and can you help me understand? Because this is what this looks like for me, and it would be great if you understood. I don't require them to understand, but I communicate. So I'm less manipulative than I used to be. I'm just as determined. I'm just as resourceful. I'm just as resilient. And I would say even a little bit more, but I'm not manipulative. And what happened yesterday was I said no. And the woman, because she wanted what she wanted, she ignored my no. And so again, it was just this mirror. How many times have I ignored the no, either from myself, my intuition saying, yes, do this, and usually I'm starting to actually take note, like actually take notes about, does my intuition only say yes, or is my intuition ever say no to me? Right. And I don't know the answer to that, but so I think the opportunity we have was we're tapping into our intuition or our connection to divine source energy, being in awareness of the cues, right? So is the cue just a yes for me, or is the cue that no, don't do that, Ranchelle, or is it no, don't do that, Ranchelle, do this? And I don't know that. I actually have not. I have no empirical evidence, no data, and so for me, I'm going to encourage all of you to start to be aware of what does that look like, feel like, sound like to you, right? So that we know the difference between if it's ego, right? The ego, I, or it's our intuition, right? Our mind, body, soul connection. And so yesterday, when I was upset and angry, I knew it was my ego. And normally I would talk myself out of being angry. I would have empathy, but with the permission to be pissed off, which was a beautiful gift that was given to me through a connection and conversation. I would say that connection, that conversation, that gift was divinely led. That's right. So I had a place and space to be angry, to let it out, to be catty, to be bitchy, to say whatever I wanted to not manage my feelings, not manage my words. And then through that, I was able to see what was actually going on underneath the surface. Oh, hang on, excuse me. Yeah. My apologies. And so we have opportunities like this all the time, right? Where we can look at our situations and our experiences. Because now I can look at this and go, she just wanted what she wanted. She was clear. She was clear at what she wanted. And my interpretation of that is that she wasn't listening to me. Now, is that true? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that was my truth. Like, that was my perception. So that's why I said that was my truth. But it was that was behind her belly button, or right? Or was she just resourceful and resilient and wanted what she wanted, right? Or was she manipulative? And none of it really matters in that sense. It was my experience from it, and what I could take from it, and what I can do with it now, right? So it's great to be in awareness. So yes, great, I'm aware, woohoo, now what? And this is where we talk about embodying whatever, so mine is the universal laws, so embodying whatever your truths are. And so being in awareness of all of the little things all of the little things that needed to be created in order for that to happen. And the miracle in it, like the actual miracle that she would end up in my track, because there was 54 speakers, like, divinely guided, right? She came on knowing exactly what she wanted. So she has a very strong personality. I would say I have a very strong personality. So two strong personalities. So what can happen is two strong personalities can come in and clash, or two strong personalities can come in, right, and do this symbiotic dance, or two personalities can come in and do this. Or there's probably lots of other permutations, but there was this visible energy between her and I, or visible, palatable energy between her and I. But the other piece of this that's tied to this is, yesterday we had someone who bought a ticket, on the weekend, actually not yesterday, but Friday, she bought a ticket. And the process to buy a ticket was you bought a ticket through us, and then it was through, and then the conference was through the Zoom conference. So you had to go into Zoom and activate your ticket so you could be part of the conference. And a woman messaged us yesterday and told us how unprofessional this was, and she was so angry, and we wrecked her entire weekend, and now her week is wrecked. And she sent an email, and so I was happened to see it like last night before I went to bed, and messaged back and said, "I'm so sorry that you've had this experience with us. This is a two-step process. This is why it's a two-step process. I would love your feedback. If you've done events before or done online summits before, I would love some feedback as to how we could make this easier for people." And then she messaged me back and she said, "I read my email. I'm so sorry." It was a little harsh. I really wanted to be on there, and I was frustrated. And that's why I said what I said. I've never done an event. I can't imagine even doing an event like this of this size. My friends all said it was great. And because my friends, and I wanted to be there. So really what was happening was she wanted to do something. Hang on, folks. Sorry, I'm just gonna grab a Kleenex. She wanted to do something. She wanted her way. She didn't get her way, right? She wanted to participate. She couldn't get on. And what came out of it was anger and frustration. Hang on. And so what came out of it was that she felt like she didn't belong, right? All of her friends are talking about what a great party it is, right? Ever not been invited to a high school party or a college party. Everyone talks about how much fun they had. You weren't invited. And I sensed, right, that's how she felt. And I wasn't being passive aggressive when I sent the message about, if you've done events, let us know. I was like seriously looking for feedback, because we had some people who are tech savvy, or who were not tech savvy, who were having a challenge with the way that this is done. And so, but the theme in both of those is the emotional response that one has when they don't get what they want. And so I think the message that I meant to share today is, how do you emotionally respond, right? How do you consciously have thoughts around what happens? What behaviors do you have? What beliefs do you have around things when you don't get what you want? Do you go into the core wounded child, right? The core wounded child that this client, right, the customer went through because she couldn't get on. It was frustrating, and her whole weekend is wrecked now because she couldn't get on. Is that what would happen? Would you respond that way? If it didn't go your way, would you be taken aback and make a statement? No, it's going to go my way. No, it's going to go this way, right? How clear would you be to the person, to yourself, to the universe? What kind of boundaries around that? Would you be manipulative? Right? It's not that I'm feeling emotionally that I'm not going to get what I want, right? So it's another core wounded child, right? I'm not going to get what I want, so I need to manipulate the situation to get what I want, because I want what I want. It doesn't really matter what anyone else wants. And that's the fine line again, is we're all meant to have what we want, but the key is we can communicate that clearly, and let's say our partners might not like it, and it's about honoring where they're at and not trying to manipulate it so that they feel better or accept the situation. So that's really the key difference, right? Honoring where they're at, not trying to manipulate the situation so that they see it your way, right? That's the negotiator in all of us. Or that you can still have what you want, even if the people around you don't agree, as long as it's communicated to you and them, possibly, I say that with a question, of your intention. So it's basically comes down to the absence of manipulation. It's the absence of manipulation. And so And then the other part of that is even the lesson, I'll use lesson, I guess, the opportunity in the meaning that I was giving it, right? So with both of these situations, the common denominator was me. And one, I was not upset or offended that the client felt that our system that we were using, was wrecking her day. And that was the dumbest way to do a summit. And she would never do a summit like this, right? Versus me being angry and while I want to say angry, I was pissed off. Like it was a deeper it was a deeper reaction than anger with this woman, and the meaning that I was giving that, right? And the meaning that I was giving that is, no, you can't have your way. It's not your summit. So it's very ego based, right? Very ego driven, right? And even reading your comment, right? She's trying to totally disrespect the setup. That's one meaning, and that's the meaning I was giving it, right? Or it could just be that she wanted what she wanted and she's used to getting what she wanted, and she just always asks for what she wants. She usually gets what she wants because she asks for what she wants. So when someone says no, it's a bit of a surprise, right? And it could have a completely different meaning as well. So problem's never a problem unless we give it meaning, right? And that's normally how I approach things, right? And the gift yesterday, like as I said, was the opportunity to just, be pissed off, say what I need to say, so I could hear and I could release it out of my body. That was the gift, and then the opportunity, of course, to be the observer afterwards and observe the difference and what this could look like instead. And so, yeah, what meanings do you give things that piss you off? What triggers, are you having, and is it a mirror for you? Because both of these were mirrors for me, right? One, I could not relate at all to the young, I shouldn't say she's young, the woman who, like, we wrecked her entire weekend. I could not, that I don't relate with that energy. I don't know what that's like. I certainly have had victim energy before, but not to that extent. But I certainly could relate to the woman who wanted what she wanted, right? And so that was a bit of a mirror for me. All right, we just stop the recording.